David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, breaking news. Late today, the U.S. retaliates against Iran for the downing of an American helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz, calling the strikes self-defense. President Trump vowed the U.S. must respond. News tonight about the crew members and a first-of-its-kind rescue at sea. How it was done. Martha Raddatz with new reporting. And late today, what President Trump told our Jonathan Karl. Also breaking tonight, the verdict late today, an emotionally charged murder trial sharply dividing a community just outside Dallas. A teenager accused of fatally stabbing a rival high school athlete during a track meet, what the jury has now decided. We're tracking severe storms unfolding over several days from Texas to the Dakotas to the Great Lakes. More than 40 million on alert for dangerous thunderstorms, flash flooding, and damaging winds. Tonight, the defendant charged in a deadly boat accident. The trial paused during opening statements, the defendant sobbing uncontrollably in court. A veteran airline pilot arrested, accused of flying hundreds of flights with thousands of passengers, all with a fake license. NASA reveals the new crew of Artemis III and the next mission, taking astronauts one giant leap closer to landing back on the moon. Dramatic dashcam video of a high-speed police chase, a gunman firing at a state trooper through the passenger window while spinning out on the highway. 4 years after retiring, one of the greatest of all time, Serena Williams makes her return to the court. And the NBA Finals, the Spurs take Game 3, the 7'4" phenom helping to break the Knicks' 13-game winning streak. What he's now saying about Game 4.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis in for David. We begin tonight with breaking news, a dangerous new escalation in the Middle East. Late today, the United States launching retaliatory strikes against Iran after the downing of a U.S. helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command is calling them self-defense strikes. The attacks come after that U.S. helicopter was hit by an Iranian drone near the coast of Oman. For the first time ever, 2 crew members on board the Apache were rescued by a sea drone, pulling them from the water under the cloak of darkness, carrying them from the scene until they could be hoisted up to a rescue helicopter. Just a short time ago, President Trump told our Jonathan Karl, quote, "I believe in responding in a strong manner." John Karl is standing by. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz leads us off.
Tonight, retaliatory U.S. strikes lighting up Iranian targets after the downing of a U.S. Apache helicopter by an Iranian drone. Iranian state TV reporting multiple explosions near the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. CENTCOM calling the mission a proportional response to unjustified Iranian aggression. Our John Karl was on the phone with President Trump just as the U.S. strikes unfolded. The president saying, "I think it's very important to respond. They shot down a helicopter and we are responding as we speak." The Apache helicopter was on a late-night mission patrolling the strait to deter small Iranian boats from threatening U.S. warships or commercial vessels when the Iranian drone sent it crashing into the sea. Both pilots escaped the sinking helicopter, and a remarkable rescue mission was launched just hours before dawn. The U.S. Navy in a first-of-its-kind rescue dispatching an unmanned surface vessel, a drone speedboat, to the waters off the coast of Oman, where the pilots with flotation devices around their necks were waiting for help. The drone boat was guided to the downed pilots, who climbed aboard and were then whisked to another location where a rescue helicopter hovered above and hoisted them off the unmanned boat to safety. Both are in stable condition. That drone boat, operated by the U.S. Fifth Fleet's Task Force 59, the Navy's first drone unit that operates several types of autonomous drones in the waters of the Middle East. But tonight, with the U.S. launching these retaliatory strikes, it is unclear what happens to negotiations with Iran. The president overnight had claimed a deal was imminent.
We could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now, but I think it's going well.
But Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, defiant, appearing to reference the helicopter attack, saying foreign forces in proximity to our territory are at constant risk, adding Iran prefers the language of diplomacy. However, we know how to speak other languages, too. Lindsay, these ongoing retaliatory U.S. strikes on Iran targeting multiple locations like radar and command and control centers are a significant response to the downing of that U.S. Apache helicopter. But tonight, Iran vowing a decisive response to the U.S. and any nation here in the Middle East hosting U.S. bases. Lindsay?
That fragile ceasefire hangs in the balance. Martha, thank you. Let's go to the White House and ABC's Jonathan Karl. John, I know you had a chance to speak with President Trump shortly after the American counterstrikes. What did he say?
Lindsay, the president made it clear to me that these U.S. strikes on Iran are specifically in response to Iran's downing of that Apache helicopter. He does not see this as the beginning of a major new offensive against the Iranians. This is a response to what they did with our helicopter last night, the president told me, and I believe the response should be very strong, very powerful, and that's what this is. This one is. Now, as he said that, though, he immediately, talking about how powerful the response was, he brought up the peace deal that he is trying to negotiate with the Iranians. It seemed clear to me that even as he was ordering U.S. attacks on Iran, he still believes he can get a peace deal with the Iranians. Lindsay?
John Karl from the White House, thank you. We move on now to the verdict in Texas late today. An emotionally charged murder trial sharply dividing a community just outside Dallas. A teenager convicted, fatally stabbing a rival high school athlete during a track meet. How the community is responding tonight. ABC's John Quinones is in Texas.
Tonight, raw emotion and tensions running high outside this Texas courthouse as word of the verdict reached the crowd. After deliberating for less than 3 hours, the jury found the 19-year-old Carmelo Anthony guilty of murder in the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, an athlete from a rival track team.
Both families became pretty emotional. They were holding it in as best they could, but you could hear emotions just on both sides, and you could see relief and some of the Metcalf family rubbing each other's backs.
Prosecutors called it murder, plain and simple, telling the jury you can meet a shove with a shove, but they argued you don't get to meet a shove with a stab. Anthony never testified, and the jury rejected his claim of self-defense. The case fueling a debate over race and deeply dividing this community. It all started at a rainy track meet last year when Anthony walked under a tent belonging to Metcalf's team. After Anthony was repeatedly asked to leave, Metcalf pushed him. Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed him in the chest. Metcalf died in the arms of his twin brother.
Carmelo Anthony, class of 2025.
Both teens were promising students and athletes.
It's a crazy situation, you know. Either way it go, there's no win in this.
Late today, Carmelo Anthony in tears as his mother took the stand, pleading with the jury to have mercy on her son, telling them her son is remorseful.
And just a short time ago, Anthony sentenced to 35 years in prison.
And Lindsay, tonight the school district issued a statement saying they've carried the weight of this tragedy for more than a year, and they're asking the community to support each other with respect, sensitivity, and understanding. Lindsay?
John, thank you. Tonight we're tracking severe storms and possible tornadoes. The storms hitting over the next several days. Thunderstorms, flash flooding, and damaging winds from Texas to the Dakotas into the Great Lakes. More than 40 million people are under alerts. Here's WABC meteorologist Jeff Smith from our New York station WABC with the images coming in.
Tonight, devastating scenes outside Louisville, Kentucky after a storm dumped more than a half a foot of rain. Shelby Steele shot this video from inside a bank as she was surrounded by floodwaters in downtown Lanesville, Indiana. First responders racing to check on trapped residents.
If you cannot get through and you need help, a signal for us would be that you would put a sheet out your window.
Eleanor Kinsley was at Bible study. When the floods came, firefighters put her and other members in the back of a pickup truck.
We got out safe. They got us out safe. Lanesville Fire Department did.
The water's powerful enough to lift cars and carry propane tanks away. Outside Saginaw, Michigan, a reported tornado damaging as many as 40 homes. Overnight, winds gusting over 110 miles an hour in parts of Kansas. And buildings at Kansas State University losing power.
And let's get right to Jeff Smith with the forecast. How's it looking, Jeff?
Well, we're heading into a multi-day severe weather outbreak. Check this out. Tornado watches already issued for portions of the Dakotas overnight tonight, where you've had up to a half a foot of rain over parts of Kentucky and southern Indiana. Flood watches in effect until early tomorrow. But all eyes on the plains. Dakotas all the way down to the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma overnight tonight. Severe storms, a level 3 out of 5 risk. We're talking about destructive wind, very large hail, maybe some strong tornadoes. That all shifts into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes into the days tomorrow and Thursday, including Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Chicago, all the way down to St. Louis. That can make it to the East Coast, by the way, by Friday, ahead of which there's some maybe near record heat along the I-95 corridor, Washington, D.C., down to Raleigh. Lindsay?
Some 3 digits there. All right, Jeff, thank you. Now to the manslaughter trial of a real estate developer accused of killing a 17-year-old girl during a boat accident in Florida. The judge forced to pause the trial during opening statements after the defendant broke down in court. Here's ABC's Victor Wembanyama.
Tonight, dramatic moments inside a Florida courtroom. A real estate mogul on trial for the death of a 17-year-old girl in a boat crash, sobbing uncontrollably in court.
Mr. Pino, I need you to get a hold of yourself.
Opening statements cut short on Monday. Defendant George Pino growing emotional as his legal team spoke.
He did not intend to crash into a marker. He did not intend for anybody to be hurt.
The judge calling for a break. His legal team trying to calm Pino down, telling the judge he wasn't feeling well. Pino is charged with manslaughter and vessel homicide. On Labor Day weekend 2022, he was boating with his family in Biscayne Bay to celebrate his daughter's birthday. 11 of her friends on board. Authorities say Pino struck a marker, capsizing the boat and throwing everyone into the water. One of the girls permanently disabled, another 17-year-old Lucy Fernandez drowning in the crash.
She gave me a hug, and I remember it clearly because that's the last time I held her alive.
Today, Lucy's father taking the stand, recalling the heartbreaking moments inside the hospital.
And when we walk in, a nurse is performing some sort of emergency CPR on her to just try and keep her faint heartbeat alive. We have no doubt that she was holding on for Melly and I to get there.
Lindsay, prosecutors claim Pino had been drinking and was speeding before the crash, but his defense says that was not the case, calling this a tragic accident. The trial is expected to last 2 weeks. Lindsay?
Victor, thank you. Next tonight, the disturbing arrest of a veteran Air Canada pilot. He's accused of flying hundreds of flights with thousands of passengers on board, and he did it for years with a fake license. Here's ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky. Aaron?
Lindsay, authorities said their investigation read like a movie script. This longtime Air Canada pilot is accused of fraud and deceit, flying all of those flights and tens of thousands of passengers without the required license. Instead, investigators said Jeffrey Wall faked his credentials for almost 2 decades while piloting 900 domestic and international flights. Air Canada said safety was not compromised because Wall was still a fully trained pilot. But Lindsay, the police said that's like a doctor licensed to practice family medicine marching into the ER and performing brain surgery. Lindsay?
What an unsettling story. Aaron, thank you. Now to NASA, preparing for the next milestone in its long-awaited return to the surface of the moon. Today, NASA introduced the crew of Artemis III and the mission they hope will eventually lead to astronauts safely landing on the moon and then returning home. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
The Artemis II crew, comrade, hands you the baton. You got the controls.
Tonight, Artemis II Commander Reed Weissman passing the baton.
We, the Artemis III crew, are honored to be able to carry this torch forward, to be able to execute our mission, to make that flame burn brighter and pass it on.
These are the 4 astronauts that will launch into Earth's orbit for the critical and complex Artemis III mission. Commander Randy Brusnick, a retired Marine colonel with more than 7,000 flight hours. Italian pilot Luca Parmitano, a European Space Agency astronaut, test pilot, and colonel in the Italian Air Force. Mission specialist Frank Rubio, who served more than 28 years in the Army as a physician, aviator, and astronaut. And mission specialist Andre Douglas, Coast Guard Reserve officer who was also the backup member of the Artemis II crew.
You're certainly seeing the best of the astronaut corps come together on what is probably one of the most complex missions we've ever undertaken at NASA.
They're going to be testing critical docking procedures with SpaceX and Blue Origin's lunar landers.
You know, it's really important so that we understand the landers, how they're going to dock with Orion, how we're going to do a bunch of operations within the vehicles, between the vehicles.
What did you say when you got the call?
Yes. Followed very quickly by thank you.
It's almost unbelievable that we are 4 individuals, but we can really hope to create waves.
And Lindsay, this is the Orion simulator that those astronauts for Artemis III will be using to train for that next historic mission in 2027. Lindsay.
The countdown to humanity's return to the moon. Gio, thank you. When we come back, the disturbing video, a shark attack in the water off a Navy base, the swimmer in critical condition. The major recall, more than 1 million vehicles at risk of overheating and catching fire, even if the ignition is off. The triumphant comeback on the court, Serena Williams back in action after nearly 4 years away. And the NBA Finals one-on-one with the Spurs Victor Wembanyama, his plan for Game 4. Tonight, disturbing video of a shark attack in Panama City, Florida. The video shows a Navy base employee swimming with a colleague during their lunch break. The victim struggles with the shark and gets pulled underwater. He was severely bitten on both arms, rushed to the hospital and taken into surgery. The victim is in critical condition tonight. Next, a close call for a highway patrol officer chasing after a homicide suspect in Boone County, Missouri. The officer comes up to the suspect's vehicle when the driver loses control, spins out and takes a shot at the officer, striking the passenger seat of the squad car. The officer turns back to find the suspect's vehicle, and inside, the suspect dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. When we come back, a major recall from Chrysler, more than 1 million vehicles at risk of overheating and catching fire. To the index now, Chrysler is recalling more than 1 million vehicles that may be a risk at fire. They say Jeep Wrangler and Jeep Gladiators from model years 2021 to 2025 have electric power steering pump wiring that may overheat and catch fire even if the ignition is off. Owners are urged to park outdoors. Dealers will replace the part for free. Chrysler has received at least 72 reports of fire and 1 injury potentially caused by the defect. More on our website. And tennis icon Serena Williams proves she still has the stuff even after 4 years away. The 23-time Grand Slam champion making a comeback with a doubles match at the Queen's Club in West London. The 44-year-old teaming up with 19-year-old Canadian Victoria Mboko in a straight-set victory. Williams says she just wants to have fun and let her daughters, 2 and 8 years old, see her play. When we come back, the NBA Finals Game 4. Will the Spurs even the score? We are one-on-one with their 22-year-old 7'4" phenom, Victor Wembanyama. Finally tonight, the NBA Finals. The Spurs winning at Madison Square Garden. Will they do it again tomorrow on the Knicks' home court? ABC's Rhiannon Alley sits down with the Spurs' big guy, Wemby, and other players for a preview of Game 4.
He's the French 7'4" superstar on the San Antonio Spurs.
Inside layup blocked by Wemby,
who effortlessly combines defensive dominance with sharp shooting.
He steps back, he tries a three, knocks that one down.
Victor Wembanyama, also known as Wemby, on a quest to win his first title, sitting down with GMA after that highly physical and nail-biting win last night in Game 3 of the NBA Finals.
There was so much talk about coming into Madison Square Garden and what it's like to play here in the finals, but it seemed to almost have the opposite effect for you. Did it fire you up more?
For sure. I mean, we're as fired up as it gets right now is the finals. But I would say, I agree with you, we were really locked in, really focused.
Now Wemby is fighting for the next big win.
Alley-oop to Wembanyama, perfect pass from...
What are you looking forward to in Game 4?
I'm looking forward to having fun. I think it's too easy to forget that. Maybe because it's the best basketball game in the world, but it's too easy to forget to have fun sometimes.
At just 22 years old, he is already rewriting the record books.
Another long three-pointer, lines it up and knocks it down.
And cementing his status as some are calling him the most versatile two-way player ever. The Spurs are still down in the series, but with Game 4 tomorrow at Madison Square Garden, the Knicks know this is a must-win.
We need to be ready to go. It's a very vague thing to say, but I think it's very simple as well. We just need to be ready.
Fired up, ready to go. Our thanks to Rhiannon for that. Much more with Wemby and other players in the finals tomorrow on Good Morning America. Of course, that's ahead of the crucial Game 4 tomorrow night at 8:30 right here on ABC. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted, most watched newscast in America. And now, World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the 4th year in a row.